Jessica and her dolphin orca. The ocean has always carried secrets, mysteries too deep for us to touch. But sometimes, just sometimes, the ocean chooses one person to reveal its heart to. This is the story of Jessica, a girl who thought she was broken beyond repair, and the dolphin she called Orca, who showed her what it means to live again. It began on a day filled with silence. Jessica sat at the edge of the pier, her legs dangling just above the water, staring at the horizon with eyes that had forgotten how to dream. She was 17, but her heart felt much older. Too old for laughter, too old for joy. Just a year earlier, Jessica's world had been torn apart in a way that no words could fix. Her father, the man who had once lifted her on his shoulders and taught her how to love the waves, was gone. A storm had taken his boat, swallowed it into the ocean's depths, and with it, her faith in life. People tried to comfort her, but how could they? They hadn't seen her father's empty chair at the dinner table. They hadn't heard her mother cry quietly at night, trying to stay strong for her only child. They hadn't seen Jessica tear apart the ocean with her fists, screaming at it for taking away the only person who understood her. That day on the pier, she whispered into the waves, "Why did you take him? Why do you get to keep him when I needed him more than anything?" Her voice cracked, and her chest burned. The sea gave no answer. Just the sound of gulls. Just the crashing of waves. But then, something stirred. At first, she thought it was her imagination, a trick of the light. The water rippled differently, as though it wanted to listen. And then, breaking through the surface with a grace so majestic it stole her breath, came a dolphin. He was larger than the dolphins she'd seen before, his body dark with streaks of silver that shimmered under the sun. His eyes were deep, almost human, filled with curiosity and something that felt, impossible though it seemed, like recognition. Jessica's tears stopped mid-fall. The dolphin tilted his head as though he had been waiting for her, and then he leaped, a magnificent arc that painted the air with salt and spray, before crashing back into the water with power and beauty. Jessica's lips trembled. For the first time in months, she smiled. "Orca," she whispered. "I'll call you Orca." From that day forward, Jessica returned to the pier every morning. Orca would be there, waiting, circling in the water with playful spins, clicking sounds that made her laugh, and leaps that seemed designed just for her. It was as if he knew her sadness, as if he carried some piece of her father's spirit, reminding her that the sea didn't just take, it also gave. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. When Jessica sat silently, Orca would swim close, nudging the pier with his nose until she reached down to touch him. His skin was smooth, alive, and warm under the sunlight. Sometimes, she swore he understood her words. She would tell him everything, the way she missed her father, the achy of loneliness, the fear that she would never feel whole again. Orca would listen, his eyes locked on hers, as though holding her pain in his gentle gaze. One evening when the sun bled red into the sea, Jessica stood at the pier and whispered, "Do you think he's still out there? My dad. Do you think he's watching me?" Orca swam closer, blowing a spray of water so sudden it drenched her, and for the first time in forever, Jessica's laughter echoed across the waves. It felt like her father had answered. But not everyone understood. Her mother worried. "Jess, you can't keep going out there every day. He's just an animal." But Jessica shook her head. "He's not just anything. He's my friend." Weeks turned into months, and Orca became her secret world, her reason to wake up each morning. Yet the world outside that bond was not as kind. Jessica was struggling in school. Her classmates whispered behind her back, calling her the broken girl, who couldn't move on, who talked to dolphins instead of people. Their cruelty cut deep. One day, in the hallway, a boy sneered, "Why don't you marry your fish, Jessica?" The laughter stung like knives. She ran to the pier, tears blinding her. "Orca," she sobbed, kneeling over the water. "Why can't I belong anywhere?" Orca surfaced, brushing against the pier, his eyes soft with patience. He stayed with her until the stars came out, and the tide carried her sadness away. Then came the night that changed everything. A storm rolled in, fierce and violent, the kind that had taken her father. Jessica's mother begged her to stay inside, but Jessica's heart pounded with dread. Orca. He would be out there in the raging sea. Without thinking, she grabbed her raincoat and ran to the pier. The waves were monstrous, slamming against the wooden posts. Lightning split the sky, and the ocean roared. Jessica screamed his name into the darkness. Orca. At first, there was nothing. Only the terror of the storm and the echo of her father's loss. And then, through the chaos, she saw him. Struggling against the waves, thrashing, caught in something. A fisherman's net, tangled and deadly. Jessica's heart stopped. No. Without hesitation, she dove into the water. The sea was ice against her skin, every wave threatening to drag her under. She fought against it, arms burning, lungs screaming. But when she reached him, when she saw the net cutting into his flesh, her fear disappeared. With shaking hands, she pulled at the knots, ripping, tearing, every ounce of strength pouring into the fight. Orca thrashed, but when his eyes met hers, he stilled, trusting her. Hold on, she gasped. I won't let you go. I lost my dad, but I won't lose you too. It felt like forever, but finally, the last knot snapped free. Orca surged upward, breaking through the storm, a magnificent cry echoing across the waves. The force of it pushed Jessica back, and she thought for a moment she would sink. But then, something powerful lifted her. Orca himself, nudging her to the surface, carrying her toward the pier. Soaked, shivering, barely breathing, Jessica clung to the wood as Orca circled below. The storm raged on, but in that moment, she wasn't afraid. She had faced the sea, faced her fear of losing again, and this time, she had saved someone she loved. When the storm passed and the dawn broke golden over the water, Orca surfaced one last time, close enough for Jessica to touch. His eyes shone, not just with gratitude, but with something eternal, something that told her he would always carry her heart with him. Jessica pressed her hand against his sleek head. Thank you, she whispered, for reminding me that I'm still alive. For showing me that love doesn't end. It just changes shape. Orca let out a long, soft click, almost like a goodbye, and then, with a final leap, he vanished into the horizon. Jessica watched until the sea swallowed him whole, tears streaming down her cheeks. But this time, they weren't only tears of sorrow. They were tears of healing, of hope, of strength. She realized then that her father's love lived on in her courage edge, and Orca had been the bridge between her brokenness and her healing. Years later, Jessica would tell the story often. Not everyone believed her, but those who listened could see it in her eyes. The truth of a bond that went deeper than words. And whenever she stood by the shore, she felt it still, the heartbeat of the ocean, the whisper of her father, and the spirit of a dolphin named Orca, who had saved her just as much as she had saved him. The ocean still holds its secrets. But for Jessica, the waves will always carry one name, Orca. And sometimes when the night is quiet and the moon glimmers on the water, she swears she can hear the splash of a leap far out in the horizon, reminding her that love, once found, is never truly lost. Moral of the story: no matter how deep our pain, healing often comes from unexpected places. Love never truly dies. It transforms, carrying us forward through new bonds and new hope. Jessica learned that the ocean, which once took her father, also gave her Orca, teaching her that even in the darkest storms, courage and compassion can bring light again. This story reminds us that we are never as alone as we think, and that true love always finds a way back into our lives.